Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of App Transformers on IBM Tech TV. I'm Liam Westby with my migration tools development, and I'm here with Ryan Golden, my teammate, and we're going to host the session today. Ryan, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm also a developer on the migration tools team for WebSphere. I'm stationed down in Austin, although Liam is up in Rochester, Minnesota. And yeah, we're here to learn a little bit about Mono2Micro.
Perfect, thanks. Well, if you've seen any of our previous sessions on Mono2Micro, you've probably seen how you can use the analysis portion of it to look at your source code and get recommendations on how to partition your application. Well, today they've got a new capability for us, binary analysis. With me today is Fabio Franco and Michael Glavasovich on the Mono2Micro team. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves and take it away.
Hi, I'm Michael Glavasovich. I'm one of the developers on the Mono2Micro team. I mostly work on back-end components, which includes this binary analyzer that we're going to be demoing today. Yeah, that's basically it. I'm representing Toronto, Canada. So you can't see that in the background here. Well, I'll say this is snow. That's what you see. It's very early snow.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fabio Franco. I am also a developer, a backend developer in Mono2Micro team, and also I'm working from here, from Toronto, Canada.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think we've done a whole bunch of these sessions in the past, but I think it's always good to do a little quick recap about what Mono2Micro is all about. So I'm going to do that first before handing it over to Fabio for the demo. Let's get going. So what is Mono2Micro? Mono2Micro is a tool that's part of the WebSphere Hybrid Edition. It helps you on your journey to transform your Java monolith application into a set of microservices that you can deploy onto, let's say, OpenShift or some Kubernetes platform. And the main target platform that Mono2Micro tries to help you get on is Liberty. So how does it do this? Well, you take your application and you present it to Mono2Micro. Mono2Micro will analyze that application. It will look at all the classes and then build some metadata which contains information about the contents of the classes, their structure, how they're related to each other. Then what you do is you run a set, you deploy your application somewhere. So on any application server, it actually doesn't even have to be running on an app server. And you run some scenarios, we call them use cases. So you run those, and you run those with the Mono2Micro instrumenter. So this is an agent that attaches to the Java virtual machine or application server. It injects some extra trace statements, which write out basically the entry and exit into each method. So this captures the flow of execution through the program as you're running your test cases. You also label your scenarios with like some natural language name, and you're basically running a stopwatch, a start and stop, which provides context for where the actions within your application are being run. So you're running like a stock trading application, right? So you may have a login action, and you'll say, okay, I'm going to label this as login. I'm starting it now. You do some actions. There's some trace capture in the log, and then you hit stop. So now you've collected static data by running the analyzer. You've collected dynamic data by executing your program. So you have all of this output, and you present this to Mono2Micro as AI. And what that does is it takes that data and runs some unsupervised machine learning, and it comes up with a set of recommendations for partitioning your application. You can then take those and then view them and edit them in a UI. We call it the workbench. Then you can save that and then go back and refine your recommendations. And then finally, as a last step, you can ask Mono2Micro to generate starter code, which helps you in realizing those partitions as microservices And that starter code also includes some artifacts to help you to get onto Liberty, a server.xml, a Docker file. So this is to help you containerize your microservice, a Maven POM to help you build it. So that, in a nutshell, that is what Mono2Micro is all about.
Hey, we've got a question in the chat here. It says, is Mono2Micro something like Cold Fusion? Is it for simplification of application development?
It is for not simplification of application development. I think it's for simplification of decomposing your application. So it is trying to assist you in the process of taking your large application and breaking it up into smaller services.
So use it sort of when you'd like to refactor it, right? So use it once when you've got the refactors, and then once you've made your new refactored application, Mono2Micro is done. It's done its job at that point, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Moving on to the next slide. So this will give you a whole picture of the user experience and how Mono2Micro works from the start of installing all the way to running it all the way through the whole pipeline of commands and tools. So the first thing you do when you have Mono2Micro is, well, you got to download it from somewhere. So there's a download that contains a CLI, a command line interface. I think Fabio actually probably demoed this in the past. So we have an earlier session. I encourage folks to watch that to get a deeper dive into it. But the very first thing you do after you unpack the CLI is you run the install command. And what that install command does is it pulls down a bunch of container images from a container registry such as Docker Hub, for instance, or I think we have an entitled registry where, like, I think mostly that's where you would be pulling containers from. And you pick the container engine of your choice that you want to run those containers in, either Podman or Docker. The next step is analysis of your monoliths. You present Mono2Micro with either the source or the binary today, very much so. And Mono2Micro will analyze that, produce some table JSON files that contain information about all your classes. You then deploy your application, and Mono2Micro will instrument that using the agent that I mentioned before that you attach to the Java virtual machine. You then run your set of use cases. So this is, again, labeling all the actions that you're taking, and then executing some of your code, and then you take all the data that was collected, the log files and the JSON files that were produced from the analysis command, and then you ask Mono2Micro to run its AI component using the recommend command. So you'll notice there's a blue text here for each of these. These are the actual verbs, the names of the commands that are in the CLI. So now you've run the AI tool, and it's produced a set of recommendations, and you access the workbench. So this is the UI, and say web UI. So you open up your web browser and point it to the URL that the CLI has told you that it's available at, and then you can view and you can customize your partitions. So once you're done doing that, you go back to the AI component and you ask it to refine those customized recommendations. You can then ask Mono2Micro to generate the starter code and to help you realize your microservices. And then as a final step for verification, just run your tests again just to make sure that everything's working. Okay, so we've been talking about analysis, and we're talking about collecting data using your running your scenarios by deploying your app. So once you've done all that, there's like 3 different things that have been collected. One's the static analysis, 2 is runtime traces, and the 3rd thing is the labeling that you did. So the runtime traces and the labeling that you did, like to think of that as like the execution data, and the Mono2Micro AI component uses that to come up with a set of recommendations just based around the business logic of your application. In addition to that, it also takes the static analysis that it did into account, and using all three of those bits of data, it also provides a set of recommendations based around the natural seams of your application. So when you visualize the recommendations in the workbench, there are two views that you'll see, both natural seams and the other business logic, and you can decide to go with either of them. You can customize either of them. Next slide. So the demo for today. So we're going to be using the day trader application. This is a sample Java EE application. It's a very simple mocked up stock trading app with a database at the back end. We use this for like lots of our demos. We've shown it in the past, and it's available on GitHub for anybody to try. So that's one of the reasons why we like it, because all of you at home can pick this up and play with it too. So with that, I'm gonna pass it on to Fabio, and he's gonna show us a demo of the binary analyzer using the day trader application. Thanks, Fabio.
Thank you, Michael.
Whenever you're ready. Yep.
Yes. So let me start to share my screen. So loading. Okay, now you can see my screen. So Michael mentioned about the place where you can download the Mono2Micro, and that's the place. So here on this IBM com dash cloud slash cloud slash Mono2Micro, you can access this page and you can download the Mono2Micro CLI from here. So basically, if you click here, start with your no-code trial, you go to this page where you can download the Mono2Micro CLI zip and an example, okay? The other link here, see the demo, is to play around with the UI, just to know more about how the UI and the partitions work through, okay? So returning here, so I just previously downloaded both of the files. They are here, as you can see, CLI and example. The content of the CLI, it's basically what is necessary to the CLI to work. And to work with the CLI, you just need to go to the place where you unzip the CLI. So here on the Mono2Micro CLI folder, and it's simple as doing Mono2Micro, for example, -v. I can check, for example, the version. And here in this session today, we are covering the last release, that is the 22.09. But we have a previous sessions that's available. We are going to include the links in the session here below, and you can get more information about the CLI and even about the binary instrumenter, that is the Java agent, and more details about the workbench UI. So the focus today is more about the new way to use the analyze command. I'm just going to show here very quickly that using the Mono2Micro CLI, we can access a lot of different commands, each command covering that chart that Michael presented before, like analyze, use a case, recommend, workbench, refine, transform, and for whatever command that you're going to use, there is always the option to check what I can do with that command. So the focus today, it's on the analyze command. And why is on the analyze? Because it's the very first step as soon as you install the Mono2Micro. So you can start by using the analyze to collect information about your application. Before this release, the only way to do that was via the source analyze. So before you was required to point out your monolith code to start the journey in the Mono2Micro. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show because it's the we continue supporting that, but now we have more flexibility in terms of use just the binary file. So here for this demonstration, I'm showing I'm using the example that I downloaded from that initial page, and basically here's the monolith. So before the only way to collect the data that Mono2Micro requires was via this command. So in here you can see that what it produces as a result is some metadata information about the classes analyzed. So basically we call that the ref table and the sim table, and they have information about methods, about the classes, packages, those informations that are going to be used by the UI recommender. So now I'm going to show that we have the binary analyzer that is going to provide me the same tables or the same metadata files, but now in an easily way, because I don't need anymore the source code. Here I have the day trade application that I analyzed, but I have as well the binary file of the day trader. And I can run here the analyze for the day trader to collect the same equivalent files. Okay, so I'm just running here this command. It's quicker, but there is a point here what is interesting to show that by default we have some let me just show the options. By default we have some packages that we excluded by default. Okay, so like those packages here. And if you check the result of my previous command that created here, let me just show you. It created here under the analyze some table files, but check that, interesting, that the file is empty. Why the file is empty? The file is empty because day trader, it's under the package con.ibm. And con.ibm, it's here, part of the excluded package. But how do I know that? Because here, when I run this command before, it's showing me what the package was excluded. And if I run again, the same command with verbose mode, it's going to show to me, here it's just mentioned that there is already some table or files that I run in the previous command, and I'm going to say yes because I would like to override them. And now I can see that the packages that were analyzed was con.ibm in the beginning. So that explains why I have this empty, because basically it excluded during the process of the analyze any con.ibm package. And how can I solve that? I can pass through the include packages to analyze. So here, analyzing what options I have for this command, I have added to the exclude packages, exclude package, and include packages. So for example, I could just include con.ibm, passing via this option, and it's going to analyze any package that I pass through that command. So before I run that, I'm just going to show that I can combine the default package list with other packages that I also would like to exclude, as for example, .my package. So for whatever reason that I would like to exclude other packages, I can always pass through the command, and you can see here that con.my package, now it's part of the exclusion list. Okay, it's like the full list plus the item that I passed through this add to exclude packages. And it's a comma separated list, so I can pass other packages if I want to. Finally, I'm going to run now the analyze, but including the con.ibm, because I would like to analyze any class that's under this package. And here I'm just included con.my package. It's just an example that I don't need just pass one. I can pass any number of packages in a comma separated list, okay? So now when I run this, you can see that in fact, other class were analyzed, and now the file is not empty. I have information here. And the information is basically the equivalent as the one that I had before running the analyze using the source code. But the beauty is that I don't need the source code. I'm running just using a binary file. And just to inspect what is the content of this file, just showing here, for example, just use the Firefox because it's a nice viewer of the JSON files. You can see that basically what produces on this JSON is a mapping of the code analyzed in terms of classes, packages, and those informations that are going to be consumed by the next step, that is the binary instrumenter. So as you can see here, it's just collect information that will be useful for the next steps. So returning here, it also always show me what's the recommended next steps, as you can see here. So it's saying to me that Mono2Micro ZKs is a recommended step, okay? I just showed the day trader example here using this day trader year, but I can analyze other formats, not just a year. I could analyze a jar, war, and even I have here another example of another application that I would analyze. And for this application, I'm using here the analyze all. That's another option that I have here for the analyze command, analyze all, where it's going to analyze whatever package that is inside this binary file, okay? So, and we are going to see an interesting result of this command. So when I run this, I can see here by the log some warnings. And those warnings are saying to me duplicate class. What this means? This means that that class analyze it, or that package analyze it, showing the package here, it's potentially a third-party library, or potentially just a library that's being reused in several points of the code. So it means that it defined during the analyze process, it found the occurrence of those classes more than once, and it's just going to consider the first instance of that class for the analyze process. That's a good indication that this file, this class, it's just a utility or just like a third-party library, and potentially you don't want to use that during the modernization process, during the partitioning, because you would like to partition your own code, right? So that it's a good indication that you can avoid, for example, this package. You could include that package on exclude list. And that's what I'm going to do here. On this next command, I'm going to run the same analyze, passing the binary file, but now I'm saying to exclude the JavaX, okay? So, and when I do that, it's just going to say that's overwriting the previous results that I have. I'm going to say yes, and now it's going to analyze, skipping all those JavaX packages that classes that were analyzed before. So that's the flexibility that we have when we are dealing with the binary files. And here as well, just to show that when running all those commands of the analyze without specifying a directory, it's included always here in my CLI. If you see, it's the where I'm running this command. So it's just creating the folders with the same name of the binary dash Mono2Micro, but I can always specify an output directory. So here I'm specifying the same command as before, just a different application because it's a bigger application that I'm running now, and I'm specifying a directory to place the output files. And as you can see here, if I return to my downloads folder, it's going to create a new folder with the result, the files that I need to use for the next steps of the Mono2Micro. Okay. Also, the other flexibility we have when dealing with binary files is that we can specify zip files. So let me show you that you can have, for example, I have here some jars, and because it's more than one file, it don't need to be just jar, it could be whatever Java binary file. You can include on a folder and generate a zip folder, a zip file, and you can analyze that zip file. And that's what I'm showing here over this command. As you can see, it's analyzing all the content that I have inside that zip file. And the result is placed inside this CLI right here. As you can see, all the results. For the other commands, we don't have much differences from what was showed on the previous session of the CLI. I'm just quickly showing that we can always run the Mono2Micro workbench to trigger to run the UI. Here is the address that I can go here and access the Mono2Micro. And as part of the example that we provide, the one that I showed before that I downloaded, I can see, for example, some samples of previous analysis, like this Oriole folder that contains the final graph. And I can show here an example of if following the steps to collect the run trace data and running the recommend, I can have suggestion partitions that's provided by the Mono2Micro. Okay, and here I can play around with the partitions. Those two here, business logic and natural sinks, are the ones suggested by the UI. And what I can see on this graph is basically classes. The Java classes are the circles. The lines are the calls that I have between the classes. In fact, it's between the objects that are instantiated by those, using those classes as reference. But you can see here, for example, number of the calls that during my during the exercise of the exercise of the application to collect the run trace logs. The UI knows what is the number of calls that was done, and based on that and other aspects, it can provide me this nice recommendation of partitions, how I could partitionate my classes. I can see this on a graph, on a table format, here with labels. Again, all those nicely flexibility that I have with the UI were covered here on this session, the previous session where was covered the details about the binary instrumenter and the UI. The link is here, and we are going to provide as well as part of the in the chat of this session. And just to recap that we can always have a custom based on the business logic or natural themes. I can decide where is my custom partition will be based on, can create my own customization. So for example, if I know that a particular class here, so for example, financial, which is shouldn't be here, it makes more sense to me that it will be on the partition 2. It's just easy as drag and drop, okay? So that's a really nice feature. And after that, if I customize it, I need to run the refine command on the CLI, and the refine will check if it's feasible, this action of I just did, that it makes sense, have this, if it's possible to have that financial class on this other partition, and it's going to provide me a nice recommendation after that. And as a final step on our demo, I'm going to show that until this point, until the transform point, I don't need the source code. That's the beauty of this last release, because I can just get binary file, Java binary file, analyze, get the recommendations, the customizations, check the partitioning, and if I would like the start generation of the start code of my application, so in this last step, I could, I need to point the source code. So that is the beauty. It's just by the last step that I could go here and say, okay, I'm good with the recommendations provided, and here is my monolith. Here's my monolith, and running this command, the Mono2Micro is going to analyze and going to generate the starter code of my application. It's going to generate in the same folder as the one that I have my monolith. My monolith is here. It's going to generate here the partitioning, as you can see on the log screen. So here I have my partitions recommendations where I can start to work through the process to generate my microservices. So that's what I had for the demo today. Any questions so far?
No, we don't have any in the chat right now, but this is a good demonstration of the new capability. And at this point, it's totally possible now for administrators, those people who don't have source access, to go through the whole process of our app modernization tools, from binary scanner analysis of just migrating to a different platform, to operational considerations through transformation advisory, and now through Mono2Micro to even refactor your application. And you only need the source for that last step. That's great.
Yeah, that's the cool part. It's much more flexible right now. Okay, I'm handing back to you, Leon.
Perfect. Well, I think if we don't have any questions and we don't have anything else we'd like to cover, I think we can wrap this up for today. So thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you later. Thanks again.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.